How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
You guys keep up the good work, man. Podcasts are the way of the future.
Here we go. Welcome to the latest edition of the Doc and Jock podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Who is across from me? He's back. Adam survived Brazil, but from what he sounds like, from what he's been telling me his first couple days back, just barely. What's up, cuz?
Dude, I feel like a Sao Paulo bus full of fat people that were sick hit me and then just sat on me. I've got this crazy cold. Let me explain this to you, all right? So my trip there was absolutely horrible. If you follow any of my social media, you see what was going on. If you listen to the first week I missed, you listen to that podcast. I was sitting in the airport talking to you because they couldn't get us on the plane to get us out to New York so we could make our transfer to get over to Brazil. Anyways, our first flight, we ended up leaving Detroit we're supposed to leave Detroit at 10 o'clock in the morning. We ended up leaving Detroit at 3:30 in the afternoon, and we ended up going to Dallas. That first flight, everybody who sat around us was sick. I looked at my wife, Lorraine, and I said, there's a good possibility we're going to be sick for this trip. The next flight from Dallas to Brazil, everybody and then some, like all these Brazilians near us, sick. It's just coughing, hacking, and I'm like, I'm telling you, we're going to either get cancer or we're going to get AIDS. We're going to get something. And she's like, don't joke like that. It's horrible. And I was like, I know, but I'm just telling you, we're going to feel like absolute crap on our vacation. We get there, we feel fine. Everything's great. No big deal. All right? But her dad comes down with this weird cough. I don't know if you know anybody like this, and if any of you are listening and you do this, just know that you're an awful person and everybody hates you. Everybody hates you. Her dad is an open mouth cougher.
Oh.
Doesn't cover ever. Just never. Never ever covers his mouth. On top of that, he's an open mouth sneezer. This dude hit me. I don't know. This dude hit me in the face, in the chest, and in the shoulder with 3 sneezes while we were at the beach.
Oh, no!
I looked at Lorraine and I was like, if your dad gets me fucking sick, I'm going to be so pissed off. Now, after all of that, I started to get a little bit of a runny nose, some sneezing, and I was fighting it off and I was doing a really good job till we came back. Got on the plane from Brazil to Miami, and it was like everybody who flew from Detroit to Dallas and then flew from Dallas to Brazil was on this plane, and they were all sitting around us. Everybody was coughing. Everybody was sneezing.
You fucking suck.
Yeah, it was horrible. Everybody had a runny nose and was blowing it. It was awful. For 9 hours, I sat in that. Awful. So then I get here, right? Mind you, I stayed up for like 43 hours straight because there was a 2-hour time difference from Brazil to Detroit, and I didn't sleep. We ended up waking up Sunday morning I got up at 8:30 when her mom started all of her BS that her mom does, and I just laid in bed until 10 because I didn't want to go out there and deal with any of it. So up at 8:30, add 2 hours for the time travel. Don't end up getting into Detroit until 5:15ish, and then from there I don't end up going to bed until like 11:30 the following day. So it was like 40 some hours I was up. So all that kind of takes a toll on your body. At this point, I'm done. I called into work this morning. I feel like crap. You were awesome. You're like, look, we can set it up. You can do it over the phone. And I was like, no way, dude. I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna get you sick.
Exactly.
I'm gonna get whoever else sick. I was like, I've had too many days off. Like 2 times. You missed 2 podcasts.
Feels like a lot.
That's your quota for the year. You can't miss any more podcasts. You just can't. You know, I mean, how many podcasts have you missed? I don't think you've missed any.
I've been on all the Doc and Jock podcasts, I believe.
You've never missed a podcast. You can't miss podcasts. You just can't. It's how we do this. You know, when we set this up, we looked at each other and we're like, You got to commit to it.
Thursdays.
You got to be here
That's
every single day that we need to record. And we've done it. You know, we've worked around surgeries that I've had. We've worked around colds that we both have had. We've worked around births of children that you've had. You know, we've done it all. So just because I'm sick, you're now going to get sick. Exactly. But you know what? This podcast is going to go out.
Exactly. But overall, you had fun. Brazil was worth it. Because it's been now like four years since you've been there.
Yeah, it was 4 or 5 years. Yeah. It was a good time. It's always a mixed bag. So I don't know how you feel about Brian and Hedwig. And I don't know how they necessarily feel about you.
Oh, we got good love, you know, but obviously the good distance, you know, from where they live to where I live is great.
Right. Well, of course.
You don't want to live with your in-laws, right?
You don't. And after about 4 or 5 days,
you're like, oh.
You're ready to kill somebody. But her parents are great. Her parents are incredible. I love them. But there is this underlying contention with us. And we'll just talk about it. She can't. Her dad came here. He worked for GM. They transferred him out here. And he got sent back to Brazil once his project was done. She was already in college at this point, and the thing was, you can finish your program, and then you're going to come back home. Well, she finished her program.
She met some big asshole and decided, uh-oh.
She met this podcasting jerk and got married. So she never went back home. And
so you represent the guy that took their daughter from the homeland.
Exactly. And whenever we're there, when I say her mom's BS, that's the BS. Why don't you come back, live here?
You're a fucking asshole!
Right, I am. You know, why don't you stay? Don't you want to live here? Adam, don't you want to live here? I'll cook for you. Mind you, I told you I gained like...
She's trying to recruit you to Brazil?
Yeah, I gained like 10 pounds in like 8 days. Because her mom's a fantastic cook. She's outstanding. The stuff she makes is incredible. She made this shrimp dish, and I would never in a million years ever think to eat this. And I was looking at it, I was like, that looks gross as fuck. Tasted so good. Last time I was there, she made this fish dish. It was like a fish casserole. That sounds awful, doesn't it? It was amazing. Her mom's an incredible cook. So I tacked on like 10 pounds in like 8 days. I mean, you were going back through a direct messenger on Twitter about it, but that's what it is, right? So by the time you have 3 days left, you kind of start to feel that, and you're just kind of over it. But they're great people. It was a great time. And like you said, you don't want to live with your in-laws. I was with them for 10 days. I have enough patience for about 4 or 5. My wife has enough patience for about 7 or 8. And she looked at me, she was like, I'm now done. And I was like, oh, cool. So you see where I was at like 3 days ago.
Look, in situations, sometimes you also have to look at silver linings, okay? And here's something that sometimes people don't realize is, you know, I'm pretty much certain then that they're pretty much well-to-do. They're okay. They're comfortable.
Yes. They do very well.
They do very well. But people in foreign countries sometimes when they realize, oh, you know, my daughter's going to the big, bad, amazing country of America, flush with cash, and sometimes they play the card of, oh, you know, we're struggling. Can you send me back a couple hundred here and there, a couple hundred here and there, and things like that. A lot of foreign people send a lot of money to their families back home. So be thankful that you're not having to float the bill of another family.
Yeah, no, I don't get any of that.
Exactly. That'd be great.
When we go there, like I said, her parents are awesome.
That's good.
They're really good. Her dad takes care of just about everything.
See, that's the best part is that you realize, okay, some of that's normal. I mean, they don't want their daughter to be that far away.
No,
seeing them once every couple years. It's different. You can only Skype so many times with your kid where you're just like, I miss him. That's funny that they tried to recruit you to Brazil.
Oh, yeah. All the time, whenever I'm there. Her mom, we were driving home from, where were we driving from? We were driving from, I think we went out to eat one night. And we're driving home, and her mom's like, Adam, don't you want to live here with me? And I was like, no. like real quick, no.
Yeah, because the next logical question would be, what would you do there?
Right. Like, I don't even speak the language. I do good enough to get by if I have really short interactions with people. But, like, if you put me on the spot and you start having a full-blown conversation with me, I panic and I go right back to English. So I can't speak Portuguese. I have trouble putting sentences together. There's nothing I could do there. I mean, I could go pump gas because that's actually a job there. Like, here we're self-service. It's like the 1950s where gas stations are all attended. So I could go pump gas, or I could maybe be a janitor somewhere. But no, so this is the other thing too, right? Her dad's an engineer. Her brother's an engineer. Her other brother's an engineer. I'm not an engineer. Not even close.
A radio engineer.
Yeah. Not even, sometimes. So I'm not an engineer at all. On top of all that, she's like a baby doctor, right? I'm not a doctor. Nothing even close. I do nothing in the medical profession. I know some things, but that's only because I'm interested in drugs and how they can make me feel. Not because I'm an addict, because I get sick. All right? And sometimes I need stuff to help boost me up for my workouts because, you know, I got to get those gains at the gym because you know how I roll. Anyways, I'll show you pictures of me working out at the gym. I was super jacked, super sweaty too. Working out in a hot box. It was nasty. So I just like, I don't fit the mold. I'm not what they envisioned for their daughter.
Exactly. They're sitting around talking about formulas and engineering and medical stuff. Adam's like, man, I really love Stafford now. I think that contract is really good. And they're looking at him like, what?
Right. or there's this part in Brazil where there's a ton of prostitutes. And
right. Do you know Neymar's hot ass girlfriend is here at Carnival? Let's go check her out. And they're like, this guy is so unrefined.
Yes, pretty much.
Lorraine, what's wrong?
They go out of their way because they know I enjoy where the prostitutes hang out so much that they will go out of their way on our way home from wherever we're coming from to drive by where all the prostitutes hang out. And then I play the game of, is that a tranny or not? And it's always a good time. And then I make comments like, oh, that one's attractive. And then my wife's like, are you fucking serious? What's wrong with you? I was like, no, that one's hot. That one's not. That one's definitely a dude. That one might be a dude. You got to find out and work around that wiener. You know what I'm saying? So it's that goes on. I'm like the most unrefined, rough around the edges kind of guy. And it's totally not what they envisioned for their daughter. But her brothers are awesome. I love her brothers. Me and her brothers have a great time whenever we go there. I end up getting all messed up with her brother and his girlfriend. Me and her brother's girlfriend were drinking gin. It was awesome. It was a good time in this weird little bar. It was cool, man. The other brother, we went and seen Captain Marvel. And honestly, it was like we were jerking each other off because we're so geeked because we're both nerds. So it was great, man. It was awesome.
The best story that took place while you were gone, I want to thank Vito and Adam for filling in.
Yes, those guys. The guys that you got to fill in for me.
It was good.
Exceptional work by both of those guys.
Good shows, good conversation. Like I said, I love talking to Vito. We could do 4 hours together. I love talking to Vito. And the good thing about Vito is if you give him a topic, he'll just go on and like give you 9-10 run-on sentences and you can kind of
Vito
gather your thoughts.
Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. It's great to work with Vito, especially when you need a little bit of time to kind of reflect and think. Vito will just take over and give you a good long-winded answer. So for podcast purposes, I love working with Vito. Adam was great.
Does Vito give long questions when he's interviewing?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Long
like super
questions.
convoluted questions.
Oh, long question. I'm like, Vito, get to the point already in my head. But no, it's good. They get to the point eventually. But the best story is, finally, our guy Putty started his podcast.
Yes.
And obviously, he's heard all of the Doc and Jock podcasts where I'm like ranting and raving about how great Podomatic is. So boom.
Oh, I've talked to Putty about this.
Yeah, so boom. He signs up, pays the pro price, and it's not exactly cheap. So he pays it, and he starts to upload his podcast. And I'm like, bro, okay, simple. Dude, use the old flow, and bam, it'll take you, and you'll have your podcast up in 3 minutes. Well, he puts his podcast up and nothing happens. And I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Use the old flow. Make sure you just upload it, take care of this and that. It really should take you 3 minutes. Literally, it's that easy. 3 minutes. All of a sudden, I'm like, all right, let me help him out because obviously I referred him there and I don't want him to feel bad about Podomatic. He's posting stuff on my Facebook. Like, this is not easy. So all of a sudden, he gives me his email and gives me the access to it. And I look at it and I'm like, okay, something's not right. Is it your audio? I'm thinking it's him. Mm-hmm. And I falsely assumed that something's wrong with your audio. I think that, obviously when you upload it, something's wrong. And then I'm like, okay, oh, great. Here we go. If there's a problem, maybe our podcast is going to be affected. Nope. I upload 2-3 podcasts in the day. No problems. I'm like, of course this would happen where I'm recommending it to someone. They use it and it's not working. And so all of a sudden I'm like, well, okay, now you're a pro member. Email them. They'll get back to you. I'll send a message out to the guy that I contact there and we'll get this straightened out. Meanwhile, that feeling when you're excited to get a project off the ground and you're really excited and anxious to get people to hear it. You've done your work. You want it up there. And he's excited, and we're messaging back and forth, and they messaged back finally. It wasn't him. It wasn't his audio. Well, at that point, they had changed servers. So 1% of customers that were on that server feed could not have their audio uploaded. So it took an extra 24 hours, 36 hours of us going back and forth, like, hey, where's the podcast? What's going on? And finally, they did it. And then the last time that he tried to do it, he had it up there. He had it on the platform. He just didn't connect it to the server. And so I helped with that final piece and got his first episode live, and he was super excited. And I said, look, the first time around, there's going to be growing pains, and he said it too, no problem. But boom, right away, he put up an episode 5 days later, super easy.
Yep.
And once he got over that first hurdle, of course it was going to happen. Your first go around when you're excited and things like that is going to be a little bit of a hurdle, but it wasn't his fault or anything like that. They just changed servers, and they had to, get it situated because obviously when there's a lot of podcasts on there. I mean, if you go on the rankings, it's like 25,000 podcasts on that platform, and how that all works, I shudder to think what it takes to put something like that together with servers. So they're constantly doing their work. It hasn't affected us per se in terms of stuff like that because I'm always going to be on there real fast and stuff like that. So I messaged the guy. I'm like, hey, obviously let them know, hey, I referred a guy and he's had this problem. They got back to me a day later and he's up and running. He's live. So please go check out the Top 5 for Fighting podcast. They already got in the second episode a great guest talking about Marvel movies and things like that. And I was like, okay, the first go around, the first show obviously sounded like a first show and they acknowledged it right away that they had some glitches.
I thought you did a great job.
It wasn't that bad. It sounded like a podcast that was, still up and running. The second episode, much better. And, I would say going an hour and 45 minutes on a new podcast, a little long. But hey, do your thing, Mikey, and have a good time with it. He loves podcasting, and I get a sense why. Because it's fun. It's fun to do it. That's why we're addicted to it, and I think a lot of people are doing them because you get to sit around, have a good time, bullshit with your boys, and look, he's talking Marvel movies, good stuff, good content. So I think there's good things ahead if Mikey and the crew keep doing good work.
Yeah, when I was in Brazil, we were messaging back and forth, and he was like, hey, take a listen to it, give me some critiques on it, and I was like, okay, well, when's it going to be up? He's like, well, I'm having trouble putting it up. I was like, wait, what's going on? I was like, it's Podomatic. It's super simple, dude. It's not that hard. He was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting frustrated here. I was like, all right, calm down. I was like, I'll reach out to John. I was like, I'll get our guy that we deal with, and I'll get that information to you, and we'll see what we can do. He's like, no, John's been a total pro about all of this. He's already reached out to your guy. We're working on it. We'll see what happens. Within 24 hours, he was like, it's fixed. He's like, here it is. It's up. I was
it's
like,
a server.
Awesome,
it's
great.
exactly. And you got to understand, too, that these host sites, look, yes, they're easy to use, but they got to have, upgrades. They got to have servers. Things are going to happen. The internet goes down. It's not 100%, foolproof. But if you just look at our network, 1,400 podcasts almost we've aired and really relatively minimal problems. So we've had a situation where maybe it was down for like 3 hours and people couldn't hear it. But, in 6 years for a period of time in 3 hours, I'm happy with Podomatic. And I'm glad that Putty, I think now is too. He can speak kindly of the great Podomatic. So good stuff there. Like I said, the 2 weeks went by. I'm glad you're rested. But big stuff happened. First day of free agency for the Detroit Lions. They spent, and it's different definitely than last year where afterwards we were kind of like, bro, did they really improve the team? They really didn't do a whole heck of a lot. And we were like, this doesn't, based on what Bob Quinn did last year, doesn't equate to us thinking they're going to be better. Well, this offseason, they loaded up on money. They made the proper cuts. Super happy they let go of Nevin Lawson. They've gotten rid of people now that have aged out. I like his model of letting people go. Okay, good. Bob Quinn knows how to cut people. Obviously, working in New England, you know that model. Now the question marks can begin, and we can actually dig into what the Lions actually signed. The part for me is, look, the talent that they got, I'm happy with. I'm not going to sit here and complain. I'm impressed with who we got. Problem is, because it's the Lions, I just think the value of these contracts might be more than other organizations might be willing to pay. I mean, you made Trey Flowers an amazing contract. Justin Coleman, and a nice contract for a slot corner.
Dude, he's the highest paid slot corner ever in the league.
Yeah, it's not really heard of. And you got Danny Amendola, you got a tight end. Now, you upgraded the team. The team is better, but then you look at it just 24 hours later, less than a day, we're all evaluating the moves. We're all seeing what's happening. And it kind of just feels like something's missing. It's not real sexy. It's professional. It's good. Upgrading the talent, kind of in line with the philosophy. A lot of Patriots, which caused jokes all over the internet. And then, bam, the Browns turn around and they make the sexy splash. They trade for Odell Beckham Jr. And when you look at what they gave up for him, wasn't like an overwhelming amount to get a premier wide receiver that the Lions could have had. So then it's just like kind of one of those things where you get your thing and, you save up money for it, and then, boom, your best friend shows up in the new Bentley, and you're like, damn.
Let me ask you this. Would you have rather had Antonio Brown or OBJ? Because what the Raiders gave up for Antonio Brown was absolutely insane. Like, they give up nothing.
Right.
And then you turn around and you look at what Cleveland gave up for OBJ, and you're like, well, that's a little bit of a steeper price tag there.
The way I'll phrase it is, the moves that they made were good for the Lions, but I just don't think they got the best talent available. They could have gotten OBJ or Antonio Brown and maybe just one other in Trey Flowers. They could have maybe made the move for Landon Collins. I just feel like they made safe moves to get guys that they know will be good in the room, will be productive. And I asked you when we were talking about Danny Amendola and you gave your initial reaction. I said, well, let's look at it like from this perspective. Is Danny Amendola an upgrade from Golden Tate? No.
No.
Well below the production that you got from Golden Tate. Well, what was the record with Golden Tate? wasn't that good. So how are you improving the team? Because we always start with the vantage point that the Lions are 8-8. Have they gotten maybe a win or two better? Yes. Are they in line for a deep run with this team? I think the draft has to be now really critical for them to get a bunch more guys. I just think that they're building through the defense. The question marks will be how much impact will these guys have? Will it be enough to sustain game in, game out what the league is doing now on offense? I think it's going to be a good model. I'm impressed that they got these guys that they targeted, but I just think that they could have done more.
Let me put it to you like this, okay? And let's look at it this way. End of last season. Don't go by middle of the season. Go by end of last season. So offensively, let's look at the slot wide receiver position. Is Danny Amendola better than Brandon Powell?
Upgrade.
Okay, so you upgrade there. Tight end wise, you had Jesse James. Is that an upgrade for your tight end?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely an upgrade for your tight end. You had nobody really and truly as your tight end. So you've upgraded your offense in those two spots. I think there might be a running back that they might still go get while free agency is still going on. A guy who can bruise in between the tackles just to kind of offset what Kerryon Johnson does. Now let's flip it to the defense. You go out and you add arguably the best defensive end that is on the market. And he's going to take the place of Ziggy Ansah, who was injured most of last season. So upgrade there, right? We check that box. You add, what was the name of the corner?
Justin Coleman from Seattle.
There you go. Justin Coleman from Seattle. Justin Coleman did not allow a touchdown while working in the slot and being thrown at all last season. So definite upgrade there over a guy like Tease Tabor? Yes or no?
Of course.
Definite upgrade. So you're right. They're not necessarily sexy or splashy moves. I think the Trey Flowers move was sexy, and I think that was kind of a splash, especially for the money you paid him. I was a little bit upset when I seen the price tag, but the way they have this contract worked out, they've got so much money left over still. There's going to be other guys that they're going to bring in. They've got they got anywhere between 20 and 25 million right now that they can still go out and grab a couple guys. And like I said, I think there's going to be a running back that they're going to add. If not in free agency, it'll be through the draft. I think we all agree we still need a second cornerback, even if it's a patchwork deal where you go out, you get a guy, sign him to a 2-year deal, maybe a 1-year deal. That way you can go draft your guy and bring him along slow. I think you need to add some linebacker help still defensively. You need help along the offensive line. So there's still plenty of holes that need to be filled. The issue is they signed all these contracts, and the guaranteed money, it's all front-loaded with the guaranteed money, right? And that's how they're able to finagle that cap number. The cap biologists are absolutely crazy. I see why it's a legit job. You're kicking cash down the road. So you remember that problem that the Lions had years ago when Matt Stafford got signed and Ndamukong Suh got signed and Calvin Johnson got signed, and we had like zero cap dollars to do anything? You're going to end up running into that eventually, maybe 4 or 5 years. So don't be surprised if some of these guys do hit. You're going to start seeing restructuring of deals just to kind of even out that cap number, because that cap is going to be absolutely crazy in about 3 or 4 years. It's just going to be nuts. But overall, when I landed in Detroit, I opened my phone, blew up, and I was like, holy shit, they got Trey Flowers. I didn't think they were going to get Trey Flowers. And then I was like, holy cow, they got Coleman. And then I was like, holy crap, Jesse James too. I think Jesse James is a very good tight end. I think everybody's going to be very happy with what he brings. He's a guy who can do it all. He can block. He can catch the ball. He can score touchdowns. The guy's like 6'7". He's huge. He's a red zone target all day long. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just trying to get updated on everything that was going on and how much money they spent and what the deal was. I was blown away. I thought it was awesome.
Do you think now, because of the moves that were made addressing some things on the defense and tight end, this maybe opens up the Lions to potentially taking a quarterback like Dwayne Haskins, or maybe even drafting an offensive lineman in the first round? Because I feel like by addressing some top needs early on in free agency, it kind of opens up the draft to even a lot more possibilities when draft day comes. I think it's a good opportunity to look at it and go, wow, the Lions kind of have a couple more options in terms of what they can accomplish on draft day. And it might even be drafting someone on the offense.
Yeah, with everything that they've done so far, I think it really opens up whatever it is that they're going to do on draft day. And if I'm Bob Quinn, with my 8th pick overall, I think I'm looking at moving back in the draft if it's a possibility. And we all talk about it every single year. Let's move back. Let's get more stuff. Now, there's a lot of high-end talent, but there is a ton of talent in this draft, especially along the defense. So I'm looking at moving back. As far as drafting a quarterback like Haskins or Murray, I don't think so.
You want the perception that they'll do it, but not actually take the guy.
Exactly. Because I don't see those guys coming in and making an immediate impact. Now, what's going to happen, though, is, like I said, that guaranteed money and the way the cap is kind of set up with these contracts, it's all going to hit in like 3 or 4 years. So it makes it a very real possibility that Matt Stafford, once his dead cap money becomes a little bit more palpable and a little bit more easily consumed by the team and the organization, you can see him be traded. And then you're going to go get your young quarterback if they don't win anything with what's going on with Bob Quinn.
See, here's the tough part, okay? Because obviously the moves were made by the Cleveland Browns, okay? So I threw up on our Twitter page, @Detroit Podcast, and thanks everybody for your strong engagement. We've been asking a lot of questions. You guys are coming in strong with a lot of funny stuff, a lot of great answers, great response to our Twitter, and I continuously love it. I'm impressed daily by the people that interact with us, and I'm grateful. Anytime you see a poll question or a question that we ask, feel free, get in. We'll read it, and we'll definitely involve you as well on our podcast. And I threw out a poll question, and I said, which team is being built better, the Browns or the Lions? And overwhelming, it's 68% in favor of the Cleveland Browns as opposed to the Detroit Lions. And while I think that's a little bit skewed because there's a lot of Lion haters, there's a lot of skepticism with the Lions, there's people even with the signings that happen that will say, maybe we should have gotten Landon Collins. Maybe we could have done a bunch of different things. Maybe we could have gotten in the sweepstakes for Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. So people will look and be critical, which is good. It's fine. It's professional to not give the Lions credit, especially with their history. But why do you think the fans, by and large, think the Browns are being built better because they acquired a sexy wide receiver for a price now when they renegotiate his contract? It's going to be pretty high. It's because the quarterback and the receiver? Is it sexy? Offense is sexier?
No. It's the way the team is put together right now. So you have a young quarterback who looks like he can do things. You have to realize what Baker Mayfield did last year. He broke the rookie passing record, and he only played 3/4 of the games.
Swagger.
Yeah, he does have the swagger about him. On top of that, they have a running back in Nick Chubb. Their offensive line is solid. Their defense, I mean, you got Myles Garrett over there. You've got they've got Denzel Ward as their cornerback, and I can't remember the name of the DN that they have there. Anyways, the way that team is set up right now, it's nuts. Like it's a balance. It's a balanced and built team, and they're adding pieces to it. So I think that the Cleveland, when you pose that question, I voted for Cleveland. I love the way Cleveland's built. On top of it, they had a ton of cap space going into this year. So they're going to be able to do things like go out and trade for a guy like OBJ. Bring him in. And I think it's a smart trade for them because the cap hit that the Giants have sustained is absolutely unreal. I think they got to pay something like $22 million for OBJ. That's nuts. And so if you're Cleveland, you're like, hell yeah, we'll take him. He's like against your salary cap, it's going to be a pittance because they're the one who has to absorb all of that. So I think it was really, really smart on their part. I thought it was an awesome move.
Let's look at some of the reaction. Dan Hutchinson gets in. Is there any doubt regarding this? Browns went from 0 wins to Super Bowl contenders in 2 seasons. Mark Ferguson gets in. The Browns are going to be fun to watch, much like figure 8 bus racing, just waiting for the crash. @JNation93 gets in. If the Lions traded for Ramsey, it's even. So by and large, people think, and they're really happy with what the Browns are doing, and they have a lot of hopes. People are even saying the Browns are contenders to win the AFC with these moves. Man, it's just unbelievable. Where the Lions are, I think what people are thinking is, okay, they now have guys that are Matt Patricia guys, guys that are going to come in and they're going to advocate for Patricia and things like that. But because by and large, the sentiment has been of a joking nature that the Detroit Lions are now the Junior Patriots was the funniest response we got. And I'm sure you saw the meme of the lion with the Patriot colors covered, colored all over it. I look at it and I know we've asked the question, what's the Lions' identity? I'm okay with the Lions targeting former Patriots. I understand what they're trying to do. But I just have this underlying nagging, skepticism that they're getting good guys, but they're not getting the best guys. Like you could address one need on offense with a better talent, like an Antonio Brown. He would be better than what you have now. And I know they're trying to do it in a cheaper fashion. But look, okay, in terms of the wide receiver,
I think they're trying to plug multiple holes with guys.
Look, okay, I look at it from this perspective. The first move you make is Danny Amendola. Okay, a guy in his 30s. You had a guy out there, a receiver that was pretty quality in Humphreys. I thought he was good. He was ranked up there in terms of the free agent list. You didn't have to go and get the top guy in Antonio Brown, but you could have gotten a guy in the top 10.
Okay, but let me pose this to you, okay? Try to make you feel a little bit better about this. And I implore everybody, and I'll send you the link to this. Go to thedraftnetwork.com. Okay, you can go and do your own mock drafts. You can pretend like you're the Lions GM, and you can draft your own team. I just
stay tuned because I think me and Steve Dace are going to actually run one and record it and do a special where Steve, I think he really is down for the draft. He's actually going to draft live. He's done several of them already, and I think we're going to do one. So stay tuned on the network. I think we're going to put that together. Interesting stuff.
So yeah, no, it's awesome, right? When I was in Brazil, I played around with this. Probably for 6 hours on end for 3 days
Fun stuff,
in a row.
huh?
Yeah, just running my own mock drafts. And every time I run a mock draft, I always end up getting to the fourth or the fifth round. And there's this wide receiver, Keyshawn Johnson, out of Fresno State, who's always there. I think Danny Amendola is your stopgap. All right, so you bring him in, and you're going to pay him less than what he was going to make last year. He was supposed to make $6 million last year. His base salary is $4.5 million. He could maybe make $5.25 million. Probably when it's all said and done, he'll make $5 million. Okay, so you're paying him less than what he was going to make last year. He's a stopgap guy. If Powell does not take off, he flashed last year, and he flashed for about 4 games. And you're like, okay, we might have something here. You can't go into this season and say that's our slot wide receiver because he only flashed for 4 games. What if what you've seen in 4 games is his ceiling? What if that's all you get, and he's not able to build on that? So now you've got basically the backup plan with Danny Amendola. You're allowed to bring Powell along a little bit slower. If Keyshawn Johnson's there, I think they take him. This is a guy who would kill in the slot. He runs great routes. He's got strong hands. He does everything you need a guy to do who's a slot wide receiver, and he's out of a small school, so you can get him later in the draft. I think it works out perfect. So now what you're looking to do is you're looking to go and add that slot wide receiver, the guy who's going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years. You're going to grab him in the draft. Danny Amendola is going to get you through this year, but you're going to bring a guy along who's going to be able to give you, who's going to be able to learn for a year and give you some time. So I implore you guys, go out there to thedraftnetwork.com, check it out. You're going to learn about guys that you never even knew about. And it's great to get you prepped and get you ready for the upcoming draft for the Lions. And you can pick any team you want. Pick your favorite team. And like I said, I had no idea who this guy was. And I bought hold on one second. Wait one sec. Wait. While traveling.
Oh, nice.
While traveling, I bought Lindsay's Sports Pro book about the draft, right? Nice. And I sat there, and this is what I was sending that tweet out about what the Lions have done on draft day. And I read so much about so many different guys. And there's so many guys that are going to be available in this draft that not all of them are in this book. There's like 300 dudes in this book. There's a ton more. Anyways, every place you go, this guy is highly talked about and highly praised, and he's going to be there later in the draft for you. So you're not going to invest that high pick in a wide receiver, which I think is smart. So Danny Amendola, don't get upset by it. As I throw the book down and it makes loud noises in the background. Don't get upset by it because it's a solid deal. You're not overpaying the guy. And you're probably going to draft your future slot wide receiver later in the draft. You're not going to go in there. You're not going to go grab a guy like DK Metcalf, and DK Metcalf might bust. I mean, the guy's a physical freak, right? He's got, if football doesn't work out for him, the guy could probably go on and be a bodybuilder and crush. At least be a figure model and crush, Absolutely insane. But he wasn't even the best player on Mississippi State last year. So I don't know how he's going to be a top 10 pick in this draft. It just doesn't make sense to me. Sometimes you got to watch the tape, and I don't know if there's enough good tape out there for me to say, hey, we've got to go get that guy at number 8. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think the Lions are going to do that either.
Across the NFL, obviously the moves in free agency are very interesting, but a massive move was made, and the Giants really are doing things that are causing a lot of people to scratch their head, because while people heard rumblings, they just really weren't sure that the Giants were ever going to trade Odell Beckham Jr. What the fuck are the Giants doing? What's their plan? Why are they doing this move? Because of the fact that the return wasn't good. They're taking a huge cap hit. Are they tanking? What are they trying to do here? Are they trying to get themselves fired in terms of the administration? Because you don't, take on a cap hit of that number trade for first-round talent and then, have this situation where you're paying basically your first-round talent well above what you normally would. The New York Giants' move to trade Odell Beckham Jr. has sent, shockwaves throughout the NFL, and a lot of people are not happy. But I look at it and I go, you know what? Sometimes a general manager is in over his head, and there are things that happen that can make the organization fall apart. And the situation and the decision, the focal point, the reason why the Giants are struggling, for those that really don't know, is they've held on to Eli Manning way too long. You've now lost Landon Collins, and you've traded Odell Beckham Jr. because you're willing to keep a quarterback that has won you 2 Super Bowls and pay him an exorbitant amount of money. That's how football teams crumble, is that when you recognize that a player is no longer worth it, even if he's won 2, 3, 4 Super Bowls, if you don't feel like that you can build a team around him with what you're paying him, you got to let him go. So keeping Eli Manning will eventually be the singular reason why the Giants in the era of, in the years 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 are going to struggle and be bottom feeders.
Dave Gettleman is in over his head. That's the Giants' general manager. Now, as far as Landon Collins go, I totally thought the Lions were going to get him. I was like, okay, for sure he's coming here. I don't know if they extended him an offer, and if they didn't, that tells you what they think about Tracy Walker. They think Tracy Walker is that deal. They think he's going to be Landon Collins-esque, if that helps you out at all. The deal that he got with Washington, absolutely insane, and I love the fact that he went to Washington just to stick it to the Giants even more because he's got to play them 2 times a year. Gettleman has no idea what he's doing. All right, let me go back to that point. He is in over his head. Trading away your stud wide receiver who sometimes has drama.
The cap hit, wow.
Yes, it is absolutely nuts. And you do it for, like you said, the cap hit. They've traded away 9 guys. 9 guys in roughly the last, I want to say, 6 months or so. And doing so, they have to absorb $33 million in cap hit.
Whew.
That's nuts. You're paying 9 guys $33 million.
To not play for you.
Yes. That's insane. That's absolutely nuts. So
You're a punk.
yeah, pretty much. And what it seems like they're doing is they want to give the team to Saquon Barkley. It really feels like they want this team to be captained by a running back, which doesn't make any sense. Running backs generally have a NFL lifespan of 3 years. Every now and then, you get those guys who can hold on for 14 years. But usually the average NFL running back only has a career that spans 3 years. And the Giants want to make Saquon Barkley, who is a physical specimen. Dude's a beast. He's got thighs as big as my waist. Absolutely nuts. And he seems like a really good character guy. Seems like he's awesome. He's there early working out. He's putting the time in. I get it, right? But you want to make that guy your captain? How many running backs are captains of football teams? This isn't the 1950s anymore. Generally, the captain is your quarterback. And if they don't draft a quarterback this year, if you're a Giants fan, just go blow up the entire team. They need to draft a quarterback. Eli Manning is coming back because there's nobody to take his place right now. There's nobody to take his place. They've got nothing left. So they want to give the team to Saquon. That's how they're building this out. I think they'll probably end up taking Dwayne Haskins as their quarterback at 6. Maybe they move up and grab Kyler Murray. I don't know. I think Haskins is going to probably be the better quarterback out of those 2 guys. I mean, what the hell do I know? I have no clue. But they've got to go get a quarterback. It's going to be Saquon's team. The defense is a complete mess. You know, you lose Snacks, you lose Landon Collins. That team used to fear playing the Giants because their defensive line was so stacked. I don't think anybody fears the Giants anymore. And Collins was an absolute stud at safety. Come up in the box and he'd blow you up all day long. He was a sure tackler. The guy could cover you downfield as well. So I have no idea what they're doing, but it's a complete mess. I really feel like they want to give the team to Saquon, and it's going to be his team, and we'll see what happens from there. If they don't draft a quarterback this year, they don't draft a quarterback early this year, I don't understand how Gettleman survives that. I don't know how if you own that team, you let that go on. You're now playing 9 guys, $33 million to not be in a Giants uniform. That's a lot of money. That's insane. Just don't get it.
Great first segment. It's good to be back, brother. Good to have you back.
It was like an hour we talked.
Good stuff.
That's crazy.
All right, time for our first time out. I want to tell you about a great sponsor, the Motor City Pawnbrokers. In the second half of the podcast, we got to look at the greatest weekend ever. It was great. It was something where, the showdown happened. It was Michigan versus Michigan State. We got to break it down, the ramifications, and now it's March. So you all know what that means. It's bracket time, baby. Oakland suffered an unbelievable defeat. It was shocking. Now, if you're a fan of Oakland, you've seen it before, but when you're up 2 with 9 seconds left, March Madness, baby, it was palpable. It was crazy to see that live, and we'll talk all about it. Can't wait to talk about Michigan, Michigan State, and what the future will hold for them right after this. Doc here for the Motor City Pawn Brokers, because the Motor City Pawn Brokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality, brand-name new, and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. For all information regarding the Motor City Pawn Brokers, go check out their website, MotorCityPawnBrokers.com. That's the MotorCityPawnBrokers.com, a great sponsor of the network.
So wait, hold up. Before you go, it's been a real good late week, starting last week for you, going into now this week. It's been really, really nice for you. I mean, you were sending me trolling videos, not just through text message, but through Twitter,
Instagram, any avenue, baby.
So you celebrated what? It was your 40th birthday.
Yes, sir, baby.
Let me tell you, happy birthday in person.
No problem.
So
great.
Happy birthday. And then your Michigan State Spartans dismantled my Michigan Wolverines. Absolutely nuts, huh?
It was a situation in which a lot of people now are talking about it, and they're saying, you know what? Michigan State can be on par with Duke, North Carolina. They should play, relatively late in the season because a lot can be on the line. So to set the stage, all was on the line. The winner, the way it shook out, because Michigan State obviously had their tough time with Indiana, which is really unbelievable. They lost twice to that team, but sometimes matchups dictate it, and sometimes there's situations in which there are letdowns and things that happen, and things don't go exactly right, and you don't play your best games, and things happen. So the way it shook out was the Michigan State game was going to be for all the marbles. The winner of that game was going to get at least a share of the Big Ten regular season title. So there was a lot to play for. It had a great vibe, a great scene. It was a whiteout at the Breslin Center. So a lot of Michigan fans were like, there's no way Michigan's going to lose to Tom Izzo twice in the same year. For all the marbles, there have to be adjustments that needed to be made. And guess what? Tom Izzo realized, okay, I can exploit Michigan's defense pretty quickly, pretty easily with the pick and roll. I can utilize my talent in Xavier Tillman and Kenny Goins. I can emphasize our strengths through the mismatches that we created, and Cassius Winston was hitting key shots. And early on in that game, it was tough because Michigan was in it. They were ready to play, but unfortunately, their issues with the offense, their shot selection, the way in which that offense kind of got stale in the second half really led to an amazing second-half performance from Michigan State. And Tom Izzo did the great job. He reclaimed the prize, the top prize, and to defeat Michigan to win a share of the Big Ten title was just awesome. And it was a great contest, and it was good, too, the way it's set up, where it was close in the first half, and then Michigan State pulled away and had a big lead late. Tom Izzo, there's a classic shot of him with his two fist pumps, and John Beeline's kind of off in the background, a little bit faded, and he's like looking angrily at what's going on. It was unbelievable. It was the best way to spend a weekend, and it really made up for the last year in which Michigan, had their way with Michigan State. And this is what we get. This is great. John Beilein now has his program in place. He's got talent. Tom Izzo is a great coach, a coach that can really do some things with some talent. And it's great to see the emergence of Goins and Xavier Tillman. And it was an amazing performance, one in which you go, wow, with the injuries that they had, to still get a share of the Big Ten regular season title was awesome. And I got a chance to ask Tom Izzo on the Big Ten tournament media teleconference. I said, was it a blessing in disguise that these the injuries happened? And he said, well, if I was a prophet, and I said, yes, it would have turned out in my favor based on what happened. But he acknowledged it. It would have been much easier if, Langford and Ward were there. But, it's nice now that Ward is going to be part of the Big Ten tournament, and it'll be interesting to see how he fits back into the rotation. The biggest question mark will be, should he come off of the bench? Should he be a bench guy coming back so as to not disrupt the flow? Because Tillman and Kenny Goins are doing a decent job, and there is some talk that Ward and Tillman, again, are going to play together side by side. I just hope that he makes the right moves, because Tom Izzo sometimes in his rotations and sets sometimes is benching the wrong people at the wrong times.
I think the injuries played a huge part for Michigan State. You seen Cassius Winston come alive. I didn't think he'd be able to go the entire regular season carrying this team, and he did it. And then you got to see guys like Xavier Tillman step up and really show what he has. I agree with you 100%. I think Nick Ward needs to come off the bench. And it's not just because he might disrupt the flow of what they've got going on. I don't know if his conditioning is going to be up to par. I don't know if he's going to be able to handle or log tons of minutes. And on top of it, I think he slows things down a little bit. This is a team that can work fast. They can press the ball. They can bring it up, and when they're in their half-court press, they move the ball around. You know, you get guys open, and you get some ball movement going. I think when Nick Ward's out there, it kind of stagnates things just a little bit, and I think the speed can really help Michigan State. As far as Michigan goes, this was brutal. This was absolutely brutal. There was a point in this game where they were up by, 12? I didn't get to watch the entire game. I got bits and pieces of it, and I seen a lot of stuff in clips because I was in Brazil. Going into halftime, you had a 6-point lead, and then you come out and you get ran off the floor. I think it was a 24-4 run by Michigan State. Your defense couldn't stop anybody. To me, and this is what I see in the losses for Michigan, they're not mentally strong enough. They're mentally soft. Physically, you're conditioned. You're at the end of the season, right? End of the regular season. Everybody is physically conditioned at this point. All right, so your conditioning isn't the problem. You've got guys like Cassius Winston who basically play 40 minutes a night. So physically, you're conditioned to handle the rigors of a basketball game. So it's not physical. And if it's not physical, then is the other team that much better than you? And I don't think you as a Michigan State fan can say Michigan State is that much better where they should run Michigan off the floor 2 times when they play them. Michigan State might be better, but not so much better where it's an embarrassing loss for Michigan. I don't think Michigan State is that much better than Michigan. I think the strength of Michigan State's team over Michigan is that they're deeper. They've got more guys that they can go and turn to. Michigan has a very short bench. And when those guys get exhausted, you got nothing really to go to, whereas Michigan State has a few more rounds left in the chamber. So what is it? I think it's all mental. I think Michigan is a mentally soft team. Because if it's not physical, and it's not that the team is that much better than you, what else can it be? It's got to be mental. This team isn't mentally strong. They collapse. They break down the stretch. And that's what I think the problem is with this team. And you've seen it in a loss against Penn State. You've seen it in a loss against Wisconsin. You've seen it in 2 losses against Michigan State. Now, all that being said, we're going into the Big Ten tournament now. And I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be Michigan versus Michigan State yet again. And I think there might be a possibility that, depending on how the brackets shake out, you might see this matchup one more time. Does Michigan State get the best of Michigan if they face off in match 3 and in match 4? And they might. They really might. A lot of people say, oh, well, John Beilein is it's winning time for him. It's March. It's Big Ten tournament time, and it's March Madness. Let's go. It's winning time for Michigan. Okay, cool. Let's factor this in. This is the worst shooting team John Beilein has ever had at Michigan. All right? Your best shooter is Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole takes the worst shots. He has the worst shot selection of anybody I've ever seen in college basketball.
Oh, man, they're bad, right?
It's horrible. Horrible. Like Steph Curry will come up, just cross half court, and then launch a 3, and you're like, that's a horrible shot. But you know what? It goes in. So you can't really crucify the guy. Jordan Poole tries the same shit, but it's either falling short, or it's bouncing off the rim, or it's going out of bounds. It's absolutely insane.
How much credit do you give Michigan State's defense for stopping Teskey, Brisdakis, and Jordan Poole? Do you give them credit, or do you say, you know what, if Michigan can impose their will on Michigan State, they should have hit those shots? I think Michigan State had a great defense.
No, hats off to Michigan State's defense.
Great defensive game plan both games.
Yes, hats off. They totally frustrated Michigan. Totally frustrated them. You got guys who can't make shots or not make shots at the regularity that you need. That's why this defense is so important to Michigan. And Michigan State broke that defense down, just disintegrated it. Honestly, it looked like Thanos snapping his finger and everybody disappeared into the ether. Absolutely brutal. I don't think Michigan is strong enough mentally to win Game 3 against Michigan State if they do meet up in the Big Ten title game. I just don't see it. And then if they get paired up in the same bracket, because if you go and you look at some of the early brackets, they both look like they're going to be in the Midwest bracket. One will be a 2, one will be a 3 seed. So if they both make it far enough, and they both make it to the Elite 8, and I don't know if Michigan's going to make it to the Elite 8. I think if Michigan can make it to the Sweet 16, if you're a Michigan fan, you need to pat yourself on the back. For a team that started off so damn good, and everybody they were talk of the Big Ten, it has come to a screeching halt.
I'm curious because I heard some radio pundits say that Michigan State was going to fall off when Ward got hurt, and maybe we're going to lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
That was this guy.
Not the first weekend, the first round.
Nope, that was this guy.
Oh, was that you?
That was me.
On the radio, on the airwaves.
Look, man,
where people heard it.
I got to eat my words. I don't know if anybody heard it.
That might still happen.
How many people listen to that station?
They might be a 1 seed or a 2 seed.
Look, I got to eat my words. I really do.
They're going to lose
what Tom
in
Izzo
the first round of the NCAA tournament. Nice take there.
And
you're like, is that a strong take? Is that a little too hot? I think it's a little strong. I'm like, yeah, the first round? You can say the first weekend.
What Tom Izzo has done. Was that a little
too strong, Doc? Was that a little too strong? Wait a minute. Did that sound right? I said that on my mouth?
What Tom Izzo has done with this team, it's incredible. It really is. The thing is, if you're a Michigan State fan, what you have to hope for is Tom Izzo doesn't tinker too much with his lineup because he has a problem of doing that.
That's the $1 million question. What will Nick Ward contribute now that he comes back? Will he disrupt things? Will he be that force? Will he play defense? Will he play the whole time? Will he be a guy that can come back and help Michigan State go forward? Because this is a prototypical Tom Izzo team that can grind it out. The problem is, though, you got to make shots. Just in any situation, you got to rebound, limit the turnovers. And I just think that the biggest concern that I think State fans have is Cassius Winston, like you said correctly, can't play 40 minutes of the entire tournament.
It's freaking nuts,
and
man.
Foster Lawyer, when he's been in there, turns the ball over a little too much, is not ready yet as a freshman to handle
How much of a
the
letdown
job.
has he been?
Very much of a letdown. I just think that
Wasn't
were sold.
he a Mr. Basketball?
We were sold that this guy could handle the business, and I just, look, college basketball is hard.
I get it.
It's hard. It's very hard to run an offense, and especially at that level. And he's a little bit undersized, and he's just not ready yet. So I think that with some development, as long as he's trying to get better, I think in the years to come he can handle it. But is he ready to play Big Ten basketball day in, day out? I think it's pretty obvious that when he's in, the opponents score a lot more, and the offense doesn't look as good as when Cassius is running the offense. But, hey, McQuaid can make up for it, Tillman. They have scoring options, and the good thing is that, hey, when you miss shots, rebound, and don't turn the ball over. Mm-hmm. That's the key for Michigan State. You turn the ball over less than 8 times a game, there's a better than 80% chance they're going to win the game. If they get up in the 15, 16, 17 turnovers, they're not rebounding, then they can lose in that first game, like you had so eloquently tried to assert there. But I do think Michigan State's going to make a run. I think they're going to make a deeper run than Michigan.
There are some similarities between both these teams, both Michigan and Michigan State. Yep. They both have guys who are going to be returning. And you've already mentioned Nick Ward. Charles Matthews is coming back for Michigan, or he should be coming back for Michigan. Hopefully he can play in the Big Ten tournament. I think it's at this point an 87% chance that he's going to play their very first game. Tom Izzo has said that it's basically 99% that Nick Ward's going to play. Which guy is more important to their team? Is it Nick Ward or is it Charles Matthews?
I think Charles Matthews is a little bit more important to Michigan in that he can provide a defensive swagger. He's got that experience. I think he can rally the troops a little bit. Nick Ward obviously got hurt, and Michigan State was still successful. Charles Matthews has gone down, and I think the chemistry is just a little bit off. Some of that swagger, some of that belief has been a little bit tarnished. And Michigan State exposed Michigan. They exposed how to kind of guard them in a way that, a little bit physical, make them hit some tough contested shots. Don't make it easy for them to go inside to Brisdakis, foul. And like I said, they didn't dirty it up like I wanted to, but they made it tough with their defense, and it was good. It was solid. They played solid defense, and that's what you do to a jump shooting team is you make them go as a little bit, as contested as possible, a little bit further back, and make them hit miracle shots if they're going to hit threes, because it's harder to hit 3-point shots when they're contested, when you're playing great defense. The switches are so important that you don't let anybody get open and that you don't let those shooters take over the contest. So I think Charles Matthews has to come back, and if he doesn't, if he's not going to contribute, Michigan, I think, can make the Sweet 16. And I think this year, based on how things will shake out, I'm going to ride the fence, and I'd say they both make it to the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. They both lose the same time.
I like how you ride the fence.
You have to ride the fence because I like Michigan. I think that people that are saying, oh, it's over and their offense is terrible, look, there's something that happens.
I don't think their offense is terrible, but you figured out how to beat them. If you out-tough them, they're soft. They break down.
When the
they
lights
collapse.
Michigan now has shown that when the lights are on, the shots will fall. Jordan Poole made a miracle shot last year. And so remember, regular season, Big Ten tournament, it doesn't end your season. When the tournament time comes, I think John Beilein and Tom Izzo will have their teams ready.
This is why Charles Matthews is more important than Nick Ward. Last season, when they were in the tournament, Charles Matthews took over, I think, about 2 or 3 games and made huge, crucial shots that helped Michigan get to the Final Four and then get into the championship game. Charles Matthews is a straw that stirs the drink for Michigan. He is imperative. Like you said, it's a defensive swagger. It's an ability to hit and make shots when somebody needs to hit and make a shot. He's a guy who can take over a ball game, and he's a security blanket for Xavier Simpson, and he's a security blanket for this team on defense. Without him, like you said, the chemistry is just a little bit off, and that's why I think he's a little bit more important than Nick Ward. You've seen what Michigan State can do without Nick Ward. I think they're a much better team without him because they move faster. I think they move the ball around a little bit more. You need Nick Ward, but not as much as Michigan needs Charles Matthews.
So did you hear the breaking news? Michigan State runs this town, baby. Tom Izzo's back. Michigan State run. They ran a train on Michigan. They made them look soft, baby. And John Beilein, unfortunately, didn't adjust as well as I thought he would. And
isn't it weird how, like, maybe a month goes by, these teams play twice, and next thing you know,
this is great.
Michigan is the scum of the earth, and Michigan State is the greatest team to ever pick up a basketball, whereas it was the inverse like a month ago. Nuts.
It's just fascinating to look at, really, when you look at it. Michigan State could not have this success with Jaren Jackson, Deontay Davis, Miles Bridges, and guys like Kenny Goins emerge, Matt McQuaid. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that this is how Tom Izzo rolls. It's just like maybe there's a thing to it where sometimes when you put supremely talented individuals, maybe Tom Izzo just isn't the right coach. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Maybe Miles Bridges' mom paid a bunch of money to get him on the team.
she needs some lobster tails.
Oh, man.
So, hey, when I was in Brazil, I was following along with what the Pistons were doing.
Yes.
And
I would say in Brazil, obviously it's soccer number 1. Is basketball number 2?
Yeah, when we were,
I think they love themselves some NBA.
They do. When we were, when we ended up going to the beach, and we rented a beach house for like 3 days, and we went down to this little city area. There were guys walking around with Andre Varejao jerseys on.
Oh, nice!
Like he's like
Varejao is king.
Yeah, he's king of Brazil. So he's like the one guy who made it to the league.
Right.
But yeah, like I was like, I looked at Lorraine, I was like, Varejao? I was like, for real? Like, you could wear a LeBron jersey and I get it, but it was like a Varejao Cleveland jersey. And I was like, all right, whatever. I mean, he won a championship. So better than anything you can say about any of the guys on the Pistons right now. But speaking of the Pistons, while I was there, and tell me if I'm crazy, I've had a change of heart. I was in the camp of tank, and tank. Lose as many games as possible. Give yourself the best shot to get the highest draft pick. I want them to win. I want them to win every game they can win.
Of course we want them to win.
No. But listen, I want them to win every game they can. I think this team can cause fits to certain teams in the first round and maybe cause headaches in the second round for another team. I think they can beat the Pacers. I think the 76ers, I think Embiid lives in Drummond's head, so good luck there. I think it'd be a 7-game series against the Raptors. The Bucks would wipe them off the floor, but as far as, I don't know, they just got their butts handed to them by Brooklyn the other night. I think they could go toe-to-toe with Boston because I think something's funny in the mix with Boston. I think Boston is similar to that Lakers team that the Pistons beat back in 2004, where something's not right in the mix and there's a lot of internal fighting there. So I think the Celtics are gettable. I think the Pistons, and the way the East could shake out, I think the Pistons could make some noise. And I want them to win every game they can possibly win here and give themselves the best shot to win round 1 and go into round 2 and cause headaches for somebody else. Because what I'm seeing right now is building blocks. You know, I don't think this team's going to win or compete for a championship. I don't think you believe that either. But real similar to, and this is something that Greg Kelser said on Fox Sports Detroit when he was comparing this Pistons team to, I think it was the 2002 team, you're starting to see pieces. You're starting to see guys who are going to contribute to what this team wants to do. You're seeing a mold. This team actually has a direction. I don't think we've seen that when we had Stan Van Gundy here, because it was constantly moving chairs around. Like, okay, no, we're going to put chairs here, and then we're going to put chairs over here, and we'll just try this. I think what you're getting right now is a team that is building towards something. And yeah, the cap is funny because they don't really have any money, and there's not a whole lot they can really do by going out and grabbing guys off free agency. But this team has enough right now, I think, to where they can compete and make things really, really hard for some of these guys at the top of the Eastern Conference. And I think if they can get out of the first round, they're going to cause fits for somebody in the second round. I don't know if they get out of that second round, but right now I feel really good that they can get out of the first round. Am I crazy here? Am I a knucklehead?
No, here's what's happening, okay? And now I'm seeing it in the papers. I'm seeing it from the media. They're like, and I heard it from Greg Kelser, okay? But he said it in his argument. He actually made the argument that the fans are making within his challenge of people talking negative. He said, is this team going to win? No. And then he referenced a team that was disassembled. He referenced a team that, yes, changed the culture, that, yes, won 50 games, but in the end, they blew it up. They changed the coach. They changed the players. They made moves, okay? So the question mark is this, and people are starting to go, and the reason why this is happening is people don't want to talk about the same things over and over and over again. Well, I'm not that stubborn. I don't care. I'll say this. The Pistons are not title contenders as built. Here's the question, okay? If you don't want to use the word tanking and you don't want to hear the same things over and over, a smart guy will tell you it in a different way, okay? Those of us...
You're that smart guy, aren't you?
Yes, I'm going to lay it down for you in a way that you can understand.
Oh, me.
Okay, yes, you will understand it, okay? Yes, it's great that they win, but it doesn't change the question. Are the Pistons currently as built title contenders? No, they know it. They're just not going to come out and say, we just got to wait till Reggie's awful contract is off the book so we can let him go. They're not going to say that publicly. The question is this, and here's the goal and the theory regarding why people are making the other argument with that word that you guys don't like. We don't want the Pistons to be a team that's built for 1 year success. We want the Pistons to be built in a way that can be sustained for several years. And so how are the teams now that are winning looking, okay? Let's just look at one team, the Golden State Warriors. How were they built? Now, whether it be intentionally, whether it be a situation in which, they fell into hard times, bad general managers, bad coaches, for a period of time, the Golden State Warriors drafted in the top 15 at a regular clip. And for a period of time, they then went out and drafted the likes of Steph Curry. They went out and drafted the likes of a Klay Thompson. They went out and drafted the likes of a Draymond Green in the second round. They hit on somebody. They got a little bit lucky. But through the losing, they got talented individuals. So the question is this, how do you build a team that for the next 7 years can have talent on it? How do you get the best players? How do you get different players? Because if I ask you this question, can this Pistons team with Langston Galloway, Wayne Ellington, Zvi, Thon Maker, will they win a title? No. Will they win a round? Win a game? That's progress? The question is not being changed by us. We're just saying this team is constructed. If they go out and lose in 5 games in the first round, it's not good. It's progress. Yes, you can say it's progress, but are they any closer to winning a title? No, because you got Blake Griffin and you got Andre Drummond. Now, some people will say, hey, can you flip Andre now that he's playing good for a first rounder and go out there and, build in a way that's currently ready in the NBA with guys that can shoot threes at a higher clip? Okay, because here's another stat that you can look at, and you can make an excuse that, it's 3 games in 4 days, it's an NBA loss, but versus winning teams, the Pistons are 10-22. Great. You're not awful. You're not irrelevant. You can beat the crumb bombs like the Bulls and the awful teams like Atlanta. Great. You're more respectable. But the question hasn't changed. Are the Pistons in a spot now to look like the Sixers and Boston and Toronto consistently year in and year out? Okay, because you got to remember, great. 1 year now, you're the 6th seed. Perfect. Toronto now, for the better part of 4 or 5 years, has been in the top 4 seeds. That's what we're looking for. How do you build that? That's all the fans are wanting. Okay, you don't want to tank and lose every game. You don't want to call it that. But how do you draft consistent players? Look, you can go then and ask the other strategy. Do you spend a bunch on free agents? You're going to have to spend a ton of money to get free agents here. That's the only way to do it. So the other avenue is build through the draft. So if you build through the draft, it naturally speaks that the higher you pick, the better you'll be. But If you have doubts about that, you can say, then the best way for the Pistons is to draft great people in the first round, which I think is tougher to do when you're drafting 15 to 30th. It's tougher, but if the Pistons draft better in the first round in the next 3 years, then you have an opportunity. For me, my model would be, this is great. You got Blake Griffin, you got Andre Drummond, trade them. You can get 4 first-round picks. You now make sure you get really quality players in place and then build the next wave. This is great. Congratulations. You went from irrelevant to a first-round team. That's not progress. Progress is when I can look at you and go, man, there's a chance in the next 5 years you're going to be in the playoffs and make a run in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm not changing the argument. The argument is, and the stance is, I want the Pistons to be title contenders. What's the avenue to get there? And the avenue to get there is to get better players. The avenue to get there is to change this roster to get guys that can shoot threes and that can play defense and that have more talent. They're not anywhere near that.
But do you have any faith in Stefanski? Look at what Stefanski did
They're not bad.
Last year.
Look at the moves they made now. It's good.
With no first-round pick. You know, you get guys. He's got guys in the second round that are contributing to this team right now. I have more faith in what Ed Stefanski can do in a draft than what Stan Van Gundy has ever done in a draft, you know? And I agree with you. You've got too much money allocated to too few players, right? You've got Blake making a fortune. You got Andre making a Brinks truck. And you got Reggie sitting there in a vault rubbing himself down with $100 bills, right? One of those guys has to go. And I don't think Blake's going to be the one to go. I think the reason this team is as good as it is right now is because of Blake. So whether or not you can wait out Reggie's contract and then maybe flip him for something, or maybe in the offseason before the draft, you can flip Andre Drummond to a team who feels like he's going to put them over the top and you can maybe get their first round pick. Okay, cool. I agree with everything that you're saying, but right now as this sits, right, them losing does nothing for them because it's not going to help catapult them to a spot where they're going to get that impactful draft pick that me and you want, right? They're not going to get that top 5 guy. So continue to win. Go ahead and win. And learn how to win. Instill that culture of winning. Because there is such a thing as having a culture of winning. If you've ever played on a sports team, you generally lose early, right? There's something about the attrition of losing and how it pulls the team together. Because then you start to figure things out and you're like, oh, this is how we win. If you've ever played on a really, really bad, awful team, I've played on a lot of them. There'll be a season where you just bubble up, and next thing you know, you're playing in the playoffs and you're winning a championship. You're like, how the hell did we do this? We were freaking awful last year. It happens all the time, and it's through that losing that it galvanizes the team and it makes the team better, and it becomes a culture of winning. And next thing you know, you're winning every single week, and you look good doing it, and you figured it out. I think that's what you're seeing here, and I think that's what needs to continue.
It's nice. It's nice to win games. It's nice to play better than your competition, but it's also not nice to get spanked by teams that are in the playoffs.
No, you're right. It's not.
That was not good. And here's the thing, okay?
But don't you want to, I would love to see the Pacers. I would love for the Pistons, if the Pacers stay at 4, I'd love to see the Pistons get to 5, and I'd love to see them take on the Pacers. I think it would be great. I think it would be violent. I think it'd be angry. I think it'd be a tough, dirty matchup. It'd be like that call to the 04 Pistons, the 03 Pistons. I think it was the 03 season where things really got turbulent between the Pacers and the Pistons. And then that 04 year, it really spilled over when you had the Malice at the Palace. And that's what catapulted that team and drove that team to go on to win a championship.
It's going to be an interesting time for the Pistons. I think the fans are definitely feeling better that they've won a lot of games, but the hardcore fans aren't going to still support the team and go down there, especially when they don't believe that they're going to have sustained success. Look, Blake Griffin's great. He's a guy that's put this team on his back. He's ultra professional, but Andre Drummond, great. For now, this better part of the half season has been productive, whereas it's been all year. And you still look at it, and I think the one guy said it, and the voice of the team, Blake Griffin, said it. There's nothing to be proud of to be the 6th seed in the NBA. It's not. And also remember this. Enjoying the ride is just PR so that people can stop talking negatively about the Pistons. Okay? In the meeting rooms, Ed Stefanski and Dwayne Casey and Tom Gores, they know, oh, shit, we got to change this roster up. We got to get more shooters. We got to get more depth. We got to get more wings. We got to get a better point guard. They have to improve, and they will do that. Okay, they're sitting in that room going, shit, are we any closer to a championship? No, Dwayne Casey knows. He knows what's up. But what he's trying to do this year is, yes, establish his culture. And, of course, he's a great coach. This wasn't a bum coach. He knows what to do. But, unfortunately, what we're asking for is get the players on this roster that can have sustained success. And how do you do that? How do you get the best players on the Pistons? You traded for a superstar in Blake Griffin. He's played great. Can he sustain it for the next 3 years? How are the Pistons going to get better players will be the question. That's what they're doing right now. So enjoying the ride is just a way for fans to stop talking about the main goal, which is how do the Pistons establish themselves as a perennial Eastern Conference force? And one way to do it is to get better talent and draft higher. That's just the best way to do it. And also, and Ed Stefanski's job will be not to miss on talented individuals. That will be his job. And I think he's doing a decent job, at least of figuring out who needs to go and who needs to come in, and hopefully his first couple drafts will help improve that, and we'll see what happens. But no, it's not bad. It's not bad at all, but the eye on the prize should always remain getting better talent. It's not wrong to say it.
I agree with you.
Because we don't want, it's nice, like I said, but those that have reverence for the 2004 Pistons era, they only won one title. Okay, now they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and you could say, well, had they drafted a superstar, had they drafted better in those years, then maybe they could have won their second or third. It's all about your perspective. Do you want to build a team that wins it once, or do you want to build the Warriors? I want to build the Warriors.
I want to build the Warriors too.
And so doing it this way is not the way to do it. And that's the argument. Great podcast, man. I missed it. It was fun.
Good stuff,
sir.
Good time, dude.
Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Definitely pay attention to Adam's Twitter account. I think he's going to have some news regarding his situation at work. I think some good news will be ahead for Adam at WDFN. Some good things will be happening for him. And definitely pay attention to the network at Detroit Podcast. You can message us anytime if you have a take, something that we said that you strongly disagree with. Feel free. Leave a voicemail, 248-579-8686. Thanks, everybody, for downloading.
It's not over yet, so you can ask me that one next week.
Go Blue, bitch.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me.